Everything going? Okay, great. So we are recording. So I am Hallie Crawford. This is Designing Your Ideal Career. And I am a certified career coach and the founder of HallieCrawford.com. And I really appreciate your time being here today, guys. I know that you're all busy, so we're going to keep this on time and stay on track with everything. But we are going to be talking about how to design your ideal career using several pieces and tools here that we use with our clients, okay? So let's keep going. Let's hop into the content here in the next slide. So just FYI, as a reminder, your phones are muted. Please use the chat box to submit any questions that you have during the course of the presentation or the Q&A portion at the end. Feel free to just drop those in the chat box, guys, as we go. So here's a little bit of quick background. What I want you all to know first is that I know how it feels to not be in a job that's the right fit for you. When I was in my 20s, I'm actually 45. I know I sound like I'm 12 here. But a long time ago when I was in my 20s, I was actually living in the basement at my mom's house. This is me on the far left, my mom in the middle, and my sister on the right. And I was depressed because I had had 5 different jobs in completely different industries at the time. And I had no idea what I wanted to do career-wise, much less what I wanted to do with my life or who I was and what my strengths and my talents were that I would bring to the table. And it was a really depressing time for me. And it's actually what motivated me to become a career coach in order to help people kind of navigate that same period of time, even if it was a different age for them, that period of time when they felt like, gosh, I don't know what I want to do. And I know that I'm not in the right career fit for me. Or I'm not sure, what the right next fit is and how I figure that out. And today, after 17 years, I have this really strong sense of passion and purpose in what I do. And that is what I want for all of you on the call today. You can have a sense of passion and purpose in terms of your career that you're like meant to do this. And by the way, everyone, if you don't resonate with the word purpose or passion, it's okay to just say like, gosh, I'm enthusiastic about my work, or I feel a sense of accomplishment every day. Whatever works for you in terms of what you want to have regarding your career and your job, that's fine. But I do want you to know things can be better than where they are now. I can't even imagine going back to what I did before, because even when my career path, or I should say my business, maybe isn't going as well, or I'm having a bad day, I can still always fall back on, I know this is what I'm meant to do, because it's leveraging the strengths that I want to leverage. It's the right work environment for me. The compensation fits, everything else. And I'll show you in just a few minutes, everybody, what our ideal career model is that helps explain to you how you know that you're in the right fit. This is a really important piece of what we do with all of our clients, okay? So here's our agenda for today. We are going to talk about how to identify, like one of the first steps, actually, if you look here on the left here on the slide, one of the first steps or activities or tasks we have our clients do is to start to write up and identify what their gotta haves are in an ideal job. And we're going to talk about how to do that as a first step for you all. The next piece here is going to be defining fulfillment. How do we define fulfillment for you? Because that's one of the first pieces that we identify with our clients to help them figure out the right career path for them. Then the third one here from the left is reviewing and quickly taking a look at our ideal career model. This is your roadmap, everybody, for how you figure out what the right fit is and how to design your ideal career. And then the last piece here on our agenda is we'll talk about how to expand your thinking and brainstorm alternative career ideas. Because people always ask us like, gosh, like I want to just take a test and have it tell me what I should be doing, right? Unfortunately, it's not that easy. You do have to do some legwork, but there are websites and a process that you can go through or walk through in order to figure it out in the long run. And by the way, I did want to say something really quickly regarding our ideal career model. If you feel like some pieces of your job fit for you, but others don't, and that's part of why you're confused, I'm going to show you how the model will help you with that. Because at the end of the day, you have to have all of those pieces in place. And every once in a while, guys, and I'm going to go to the next slide here for just a second so you can read it. Every once in a while, we'll have clients when they're working with us at the end of the process, they'll say, I actually am in the right fit in a lot of ways. I just need to make changes to my current job and the tasks that I perform if I can. Or they might say, I'm in the right role and I'm in the right industry, but I'm in the wrong company or organization because the culture is not a fit. So you'll see in a few moments here why all of those pieces are critically important. So why is it important in the first place, everybody, to talk about designing your ideal career? Well, because according to polls that come out every few years, I always pay attention to these because of what I do, of course. Only 30% of workers, one of the more recent Gallup polls, was only 30% of workers feel engaged and inspired at work. And every few years, these come out, whether it's from the Conference Board or other organizations, and too many people are not in the right fit is the basic gist. So there's lots of reasons, if you take a look at the slide here, why we get stuck in the wrong fit or lose that love and feeling for our jobs. There's lots of reasons. We have to pay our bills. We thought it might be the right career path, but it turned out not to be. The culture may have changed because of a buyout. So there's lots of reasons why we get stuck. And the key, obviously, is to get unstuck. So what we're going to talk about today is there's actually good news. Like I said to you at the beginning, we are very successful with our clients. Our success rate with clients and figuring out their ideal career is 98%. And I love what I do as well. So I just want you to know that it's possible to be better. You can find that direction and fulfillment for yourself. Okay? So let's talk about step number one. Step number one that we want you to take is to begin to identify your gotta haves. And I'm going to explain to you right now how to start doing this, okay? So we have our clients do, like one of our very first exercises is we have them create what we call a career contrast list, okay? And so one of your homework assignments, and you can actually start to do it right now, everybody, if you want to, is to look at past experience that you've had. So look at your current job first, okay? But then also look at past experiences that you've had work-wise, but also otherwise, anything that might be similar to, your professional, like if you volunteered, if you served on a board, even in some cases like classes you took in college, even if that was a long time ago for you, just like it was for me. And you write down in one column on the left, you write down the things that you like about your current job, if there are any, okay, and things that you have liked about work experiences as well in the past. So you start with your likes, and then in the next column over to the right, you write down all of your dislikes and say, okay, what are the things that I haven't liked? And as the opposite of that, where the contrast piece comes in, is in a third column, one more to the right, you write down what you want to have in a job, in an ideal job, based on the things you've liked in the past and narrowing those down further and getting really specific, okay? But then also things you've disliked and saying, what do I want to have instead? And one of the things I want to caution you about is when you take or translate your dislikes into things that you want to have, don't just take the opposite of it. Like really think about it, everybody, and get as specific as you possibly can. Don't just say, oh, I want to have a good boss. Say, I want to have a boss who's a mentor and invests in my, professional development or whatever it is. Get as specific as possible. And this might sound like, gosh, this is like obvious. It's not rocket science, right? But writing this down and having it out in black and white, I'm telling you, it helps enormously because it gets it all dumped out of your head so that it's not spinning around in your head like you're in, spin cycle in the dryer. And you can look at and be more like practical, realistic, and objective about the things that you want to have. And just starting to work on this list, everybody, can help you identify what's wrong with your current position, because you might be like, oh my gosh, like look at all these likes here. And none of those are present, or not enough of them are present in my current job, okay? So the first step to take is to define or write down this career contrast list. Now, another thing that I want you to do is to start to translate that list of wants, everybody, into gotta haves and would be nice. Gotta haves are things that you can't live without, that you're not going to compromise. These are things I must have in a job, okay? That's another way to kind of narrow down your ideas and understand, like, when we're at choice, everybody, in terms of where we compromise, it feels a lot better than feeling just like sucked into something. So the gotta haves helps you be at choice about, okay, I could compromise on these other things over here if I had to, but my gotta haves have to be in place. But another thing that you can do in order to identify gotta haves and things that you want is I would encourage you to dig underneath your dreams, your interests, and your passions. Take a look at this slide here. Why is there a mermaid on it? Because as a kid, I wanted to be a mermaid at Weeki Wachee. I thought that was going to be so cool. I grew up in Florida. We went there all the time. And while I'm obviously not doing that today, and it's not the most practical career path, I don't even think the place is open. When I think about and thought about this when I was figuring out, my career direction, and I thought about what was underneath those dreams or that dream and what's underneath some of my interests, I was able to start identifying some of my values. So for example, with this one, I have a value of risk, and there was an element of risk, being a mermaid, right? At least that's how I saw it. Okay. And I liked that part of it. And there's also an element of like entertaining people, right? And perhaps educating them in some way. Okay. And that's part of what I do as a coach. I love educating people about their career. And also that entertainment piece, I love giving webinars like this, presentations, that kind of thing. So there's that element of entertainment. So I would encourage you all, bottom line with this slide here, is to not discount your dreams, your interests, or your passions. They may not be the most practical career path for you on the surface, but what I want you to do is ask yourself, what is it about each of these items that I enjoy and am drawn to? I'll say that again, so if you need to write it down. What is it about these things, kind of looking underneath, what is it about them that I'm drawn to, and what does that mean in terms of what I might like to have in my career? So for example, it could be creativity. It could be, I want to bring people together for a positive experience or something like that, okay? So dig underneath those to get some additional careers. Things that you want to have on a job, I should say. These are things, by the way, everyone, this is our ideal career model, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a few minutes here. But this career model shows you the 8 things you need to consider in order to know the right career path for you. So when you're thinking about your list of wants, everyone, you can use this model and the categories like what would be fulfilling for me? What tasks do I enjoy? What strengths do I want to leverage? Is there any, education that I want to leverage too? What classes have I enjoyed in the past? What experiences have I had that I have enjoyed? What's my personality type? And how does that, fit for the right role for me? Am I more introverted or extroverted, more of a leader or a follower? What's the right work environment, and what's the right compensation? So this model, one way to use it is to start identifying your list of wants based on each of these categories. And you could come up with like 2 in each bucket, just for the moment. That would be a good start, okay? So we'll look at the ideal career model more in just a moment, but I want to pull these up on the slide here, okay? So in order to take step number 2, after you've identified your list of wants, step number 2 is to define fulfillment first. And this is where we start working on the model itself and kind of digging into it a little bit more, okay? We have our clients define fulfillment first because this helps them expand their thinking the most. They get the most career ideas out of figuring out, what their career values are and what's going to be most rewarding for them. And then what we do is we narrow that list down based on practicality. So we have our clients dream first and dream big, and then narrow it down based on the other pieces, because they'll get closer to the dream job for them if they do that first, okay? And here's how to begin to define fulfillment for you. One way to do it is to journal tonight about defining success. What does success mean to me? Does it mean a certain amount of money? But does it also mean something else? Like I want to impact people in this way or grow a business, financially, whatever it is. So define what success means for you. You might say life balance as well. That will help you add to your list of wants. The second thing that you can do to define fulfillment is identify your interests like we talked about a moment ago. What are the things I'm drawn to outside of work? And what are those things realistic career paths or not? And if they're not practical for me, what's underneath those interests that I can pull out and then put on my list of wants, kind of like we talked about just a moment ago. And then finally, you can also think about and kind of muse on what's an ideal day at work for me? What would I be doing? What tasks would I be performing? What type of people would I be working with? What type of clients would I be working with? What projects, that kind of thing, okay? So that's another way to do it as well, is think about and write about an ideal day at work, okay? Another way, kind of a second piece to step number 2 in terms of fulfillment, is to identify your career values. This is the biggest thing that we do with our clients that they just love and is very helpful for them, okay? So the next thing you can do is to identify your top 3 career values. You can have 3 to 5, you can have 7, that's fine. But the way that you start to identify what your career values are, okay, is to do I'm going to give you 2 examples, actually. There's only one here on the slide, but I'm going to give you 2. One way that we have our clients do this is we have them identify a peak experience in their life, okay? And what I mean by a peak experience is it could be a moment in time, it could be a period of time, okay? We usually have them do personal first, not professional, everybody. Because when we do the personal, we get really deep down into who are they as a person, and then how could that translate into, gosh, a job that would be like a reflection of who they are as a person. That's like ideal, okay? Because what we want is a career that honors our career values on a regular basis. So with the peak experience, what you do, everyone, is you think of that period of time or moment in time. It could be a trip to Italy. It doesn't have to be like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I had one person say, being on the editorial board of my, not college, but it was high school yearbook. They loved that. That was like a peak experience for them. So what you then do is after you've defined that, is you then write about and think about what was cool about that experience. You focus less on the details, everybody, and more about, gosh, why did I like that? What was cool about it for me? And write those things down. That's how you define those values, okay? And after you've written those things out, you can say to yourself, gosh, I have a value of creativity or challenge or whatever. So I'll give you a quick example. One of our clients did have a trip to Italy as a peak experience. And even if for that client versus another one who had the same peak experience, let's say, they might have different values that come out of it. So one client, using this example, for them it was, gosh, I really loved it because I was learning about other cultures. And I love learning about new things about other cultures and being more worldly and kind of understanding how different people live. Another person who had a similar peak experience that was a trip said, no, I really liked the planning of it and the challenge of that and kind of deciding where we were going to go and the logistics. That person might need to think more about like project management, whereas the other person might need to think more about, a job in education or something maybe related to travel or something like that, okay? Versus another person might have been really focused on the budgeting of it all and how do I, make sure that I get this trip accomplished within a certain budget. And they might need to be more like a financial analyst or something like that. But the point is that when you're thinking and considering, everyone, what was cool about that experience for you, that's how you can start to come up with what your possible values are, okay? So I want you to think about and write down for yourself for homework 2 action steps after you identify what your values are. I want you to also start to think about what can you do to honor those more at work now? Even if you're not in the right fit, can you move it up the scale a little bit so that while you're looking for something else, that you feel a little bit better where you currently are? Okay, so one of your homework or suggested action items would be to identify what your career values are. And by the way, everybody, if you feel like you might need help with your values, feel free to email me for a copy of a values worksheet that we've got inside of one of our books. I'd be happy to send that to you. Just send me an email to admin@halliecrawford.com. Okay? So let's talk about number 3 now and dive into the ideal career model just a little bit more. I want to explain to you how this works, everybody. So first of all, we look at what's going to be fulfilling to us. We just talked about that a moment ago. Ask yourself, what would be most rewarding for me? What has been rewarding for me in the past that I felt kind of lit up inside or like energized and I'm in the flow? That's how you define fulfillment for yourself, as well as understanding and defining what your values are, okay? The reason, by the way, we start with fulfillment, everybody, is because it gives our clients the most career ideas and it's related to everything else. If you're not getting paid your worth and enough, you're not going to be fulfilled. If you're not leveraging your strengths on a consistent basis and those strengths you want to be using, you're not going to be fulfilled either. So we start with this one because it impacts everything else. The second piece we look at is enjoyment. What tasks would you enjoy the most? What have you enjoyed in the past and what do you enjoy doing now? This is focused on what your typical kind of day-to-day tasks are. The third piece is we identify and look at what your strengths are. How can I leverage those strengths on a regular basis and which ones do I want to be using consistently? Then we look at education, and I would encourage you to look at classes you've taken before, like we said, but also everyone, when we start to look at strengths, experience, and education, by the way, we also start to identify for our clients where are the gaps. So based on the career ideas that you have so far that you've brainstormed, based on your values and fulfillment, where are the gaps that need to be filled? Are these all realistic? And do we need to say, gosh, I might need to take a class or two for some of these, career paths? If you're not willing to do that, you take it off the list and you find something that's related or similar. We also look at past experience, like we said, in order to mine for those other things that we might want. In terms of personality type, we want to look at whether you're introverted or extroverted, whether you're a leader or a follower. If you're more detail-oriented or big picture and strategic, you need to understand what your personality type is, because you can't change your personality type. You can take classes, to enhance your strengths and skills, but your personality type is what it is. So don't try to fit yourself into the culture of an organization that's not, a good fit for you, okay? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to work. Then we look at work environment. This is about culture. It's about location. It's about your office space. It's about the people that you work with, the clients that you work with. Work environment is a make or break. We've had plenty of clients come to us, a client in particular who worked at Ernst & Young, great organization. She was in Chicago. She found out at first, she thought, oh my gosh, Hallie, I need to go be a chef. I'm so sick of my job. I can't stand it. But when we looked at the career model together and picked it apart and identified what was really wrong, it was the work environment and her boss in particular that was the problem, because everything else on the model for her was actually in place. Okay. So she decided instead, I'm going to go work in-house at an organization in business strategy and move away, obviously, from that boss. And then compensation is critically important as well, everyone. We have to pay our bills, right? That's a critical piece to being fulfilled and being in the right fit. We have compensation come last, not because we think it's unimportant. It's critically important, but because that's one of the pieces that helps us narrow down their ideas based on what's practical and realistic after we've already brainstormed a lot of ideas from the get-go and at the beginning. Okay? So the final step here, number 4, everyone, is to expand your thinking, to brainstorm your options. The problem is, if you take a look at this slide here, for typical career seekers, the problem is it's difficult to narrow down their choices, but also to know what's out there. There are so many jobs out there that we don't even know exist. There's many factors to consider to find the right fit. And honestly, there's no magic website with a comprehensive list of all jobs out there that are going to tell you exactly, what's available. And as a result, people become unhappy, they're fearful, they're anxious. I totally get it. I was there too. So what you need to do, everyone, in order to expand your thinking and brainstorm career ideas for yourself is to develop a list of keywords from what we already talked about, the lists of wants that you have, your interests, your values, and your skills. That's where you start to come up with your keywords. Like, gosh, am I always kind of drawn to education or mentoring, that kind of thing. And you develop a list of keywords from those pieces, okay? Then what you can do is you can develop, or I should say, write and finalize your list of keywords. Run them by a friend or family member if that's going to help you too to brainstorm alternative ideas. But take a look at this slide, everybody. Put those keywords into these career brainstorming sites. My Pursuit, myplan.com is another one, onetcenter.org. Another one, by the way, everyone, is BLS.gov. That's the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And that will help you brainstorm career ideas too, because what happens is you plug in these keywords. You can also plug them into job boards as well, like Indeed.com and Glassdoor.com. Those are the two we tend to like and prefer. LinkedIn is very good as well, okay? But when you plug in these keywords, it will give you some possible career ideas, and you'll be able to brainstorm additional thoughts and, options, okay? Then after you've done that piece, you want to leverage informational interviews to learn more about possible career paths for you and for help identifying how do I get into these and how do I, craft my career path to fit me and what's important to me. So use these websites, everybody, but also use job boards as well. And then start writing down, okay, these are the job titles I'm finding, as well as these are the organizations that I'm interested in, okay? If any of you, before we start to close here, and we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A, by the way, if any of you are kind of on the fence, like, gosh, I like my job some days, I don't like it other days, how do I know if it's the right time to change jobs or careers? Here is a basic checklist. These are some of the signs that it's time to change and make a move. If you can't be authentic in yourself, if you hate waking up like every morning and it's not just the Monday blues, your performance is suffering, if you're not getting like satisfaction at all, like out of anything you do or very little, if your job's not using your strengths and talents, that's a sign too. And gosh, if you spend most of your time complaining about your job, hello, really big red flag, okay? All right, so let's talk about some action steps here. So what I would recommend for you all, based on what we've talked about today, is these 3 action steps. Number 1, start to identify your values. Number 2, once you've identified those and narrowed down some career ideas, okay, a little bit later on, conduct like 1 or 2 informational interviews to talk with people about what they do, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what it's really like for them. And number 3, I would suggest you work on the ideal career model, okay? That is going to be so critically helpful to you. Filling that out will help you brainstorm and come up with new ideas. But also, what our clients tell us is having that list of wants in the career model helps them develop questions for interviews when it's time to do that. In a couple of months when you're going on interviews, that's how you can vet out the opportunities and know if they're a fit for you, okay? So here's the deal, everyone. The biggest challenge we find with our clients in designing their ideal career and making this happen is because they are getting in their own way. They're either, they don't make enough time to do this. They're scared to make the change, which I understand. I was that way too several times early on in my career. They just get distracted by other things and wonder what, they look back a year later and wonder where the time went, or they're overwhelmed. So I want you to make sure that you do whatever it takes based on what we've talked about today to overcome whatever obstacles get in your way typically. Is it procrastination? Is it those fears? Is it some other like practical challenge that you have to work through? But make sure you overcome those obstacles because nothing is going to happen unless you do that first. We can talk all day long about the right job for you and what your values are and everything else, and that's all well and good. But if you can't go make it happen because you let an obstacle get in the way, then you've wasted your time, okay? So please contact me if you would like to schedule a time or ask me any questions via email about coaching. That's what we're here for. You can leverage friends and family members as well. But in order to achieve your career goals, we offer, as you know, one-on-one coaching tailored to your needs. Here are some of the testimonials that we have from our clients, and our clients have secured positions at these organizations. They make it happen. It is not a magic wand, everybody. It takes work and it takes time. But we find that our clients are able to, by the second month of coaching, they have started to brainstorm career ideas already and are already starting to narrow down options. It doesn't take that long because of the workbook that we have that we use with our clients that is built around our career model. But it just takes a little bit of your time and effort and thinking and getting that guidance from us as coaches to say, okay, here are your values. Yes, those are right or wrong. Here's how we define them. And you might say, okay, Hallie, here's my values. What do I do now? I will tell you how they translate into a career. So feel free to email me at halliecrawford.com for more information about coaching, okay? I want to leave you all, or actually I should say pause before we do Q&A in just a second here, with this quote. When I was feeling scared about making a change in my career, about starting my coaching business, and any other thing that I've had to do in my life, this was the quote that kept me going. Was the greatest risk in life is not taking one. I didn't want to say, when I was talking to my grandkids, when I'm 80 or whatever it is, that I didn't try at all. I knew in my heart that I was like, I have to try this coaching business at least, because I would rather say that I tried and failed and fell flat on my face, but at least that I tried, versus that I didn't try at all. And I'm sure that you all would feel the same way. So keep this quote in mind, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I want you all to please put any questions that you might have in the chat box. And I'm going to give us a minute here. I'm going to pull up the chat box here so I can answer anything. And I've got about like 5 minutes to answer any questions that you might have. And I also want you all to make sure you write down your action steps, please, too. All right, I'll give you a moment. Okay, good. We've got one question. Thank you for asking this. So one person is asking, how long can it take, like total time, to transition into a new career? So obviously, as you can imagine, it can vary person by person, okay? But like I said a few minutes ago, normally working with us, working through our workbook when someone is working full time, has a life, all of that, it takes them like the second month of coaching, like about our third session, we're already like narrowing down career ideas typically. Because at the very beginning, we start to brainstorm career ideas, even in my first session with clients. So that's part of what's helpful with coaching, is I'll start to brainstorm ideas with you right away based on your list of wants and your values. And the workbook helps you kind of mine for all of this information in advance. And then in terms of making a change long term, I would give yourself, just to be realistic, like 6 to 8 months in terms of figuring out the direction, then getting all your materials in order, your resume, your LinkedIn, etc., and conducting the job search. Okay, it can vary again based on situations. And some of our clients, gosh, have had to go back to graduate school. I had one guy who started out in IT in San Francisco, worked with us through coaching. He realized he wanted to get into a government agency helping South American countries improve and kind of set up or adjust their economic policies. That's what he was interested in. That's what he figured out. He had to go back to graduate school. He went to Johns Hopkins. He contacted me about 5 years later. He was hopping on a plane to Brazil, to go to a conference. Thrilled about his new job. Hallie, thank you so much. Love it. So his transition was especially long. I don't want to freak you all out. His took longer because he had to go back to school and it was more of a jump. But you need to be like practical and realistic, understanding that this can take time. Give it the 6 or 8 months to be safe, depending on if you need to, go back to school or learn a new skill. Okay. But here's the thing with it too. If you look at my career transition, all told, it was about 4 years, a year to get up the guts to even like make a change and figure this out. Another year through career coaching to figure out that's what I wanted to do. And then 2 more years to take my classes, become certified as a coach, and grow my coaching business. I would have done it all over again, everybody, even if it took twice as long, because I love what I do so much. It was worth it. So the time spent is absolutely worth it. That was a long answer for a short question. Any other questions that you all want to ask, feel free to place them in the chat box and I'll answer. And if we don't have any more, then we'll go ahead and close. And as I said, as a reminder, we will send you a recording. Probably it'll be end of the day today. Worst case tomorrow morning. Any other questions, guys? Can you specify the difference between fulfillment and enjoyment on the career model? Really great catch. Thank you for that question. So the difference between fulfillment and enjoyment, everybody, fulfillment is the main like task or purpose that you have in your job. And I'll use me as an example, makes it easier. So fulfillment, for me, the most fulfilling thing is coaching and educating people like I'm doing right now. Okay. That's the main thing I do all day, every day. But I also have some other tasks that I like to perform that I enjoy, but I don't want to do them all the time. So in my enjoyment box are marketing and writing and editing articles. Those are 2 other things I like. And also, honestly, giving presentations like in person. Okay. But I don't want to go be a marketing person. I had a marketing job before and I hated it. because it wasn't the main thing that gives me the most reward. It gives me like a little bit of reward. It's like it's kind of fun, but it's not as fulfilling as coaching. So the enjoyment piece is more about what's the icing on the cake? What are the ancillary kind of or additional tasks that I'd like to perform that would make my job even better? Like you might say, oh, I want to travel sometimes, or I want to do a little bit of writing and editing, but I don't want to do that all the time. That's how you know the difference. Okay. Great question, because people always ask us that one. And I did want to say just real quick too, notice that there's actually a big difference between the two. They may seem similar, I understand that, but the percentage of time that you spend on those tasks and enjoyment needs to be smaller. It needs to be less. It can't be like the majority of the time. So if you think of your career as a pie, the pieces of the pie being like your tasks and projects, the things you work on, they need to be in the right proportion or else it's going to be out of whack. Because like I said a moment ago, marketing and coaching are both on my career pie, so to speak, but coaching needs to be the biggest piece and marketing needs to be like 25% of the time. When it was the biggest piece before, I hated it because I wasn't getting enough of that reward. Okay, another great question. Are there personality and or strengths tests that we recommend when building out the career model? Absolutely. We like the Strengths Finder assessment. It's only $20. The website is strengths, plural, finder.com, strengthsfinder.com. That one helps you identify what your strengths are. The thing about the assessments, everybody, that you have to realize is there's no one test that's going to tell you all of the pieces of the model. And that's why we have people come to us and say, well, I took this career test and it said I should be a circus clown, a librarian, or, a firefighter. And those are great career paths for some people, right? Maybe not the circus clown as much, but I'm sure, right? Some people would love that. But the point is that the tests they might tell you what you would be good at, but they don't take into account the work environment. They don't always take into account the compensation. Actually, rarely do they. They might just be telling you your personality type or your strengths. So you can't just rely on those solely in order to define your ideal career path. The other thing is if you Google Myers-Briggs, like free Myers-Briggs tests, you can find some free like little quick Myers-Briggs assessments. The Myers-Briggs assessment is very, very good. It's expensive and you have to work with someone who's certified in it in order to have it administered to you and then reviewed with you. But there are some free like personality assessments online and some Myers-Briggs ones that at least kind of give you a flavor of whether you're introverted, extroverted, a judger, or more of a perceiver, etc. So those are the two I would suggest. Great question. All right, you are very welcome. Okay, everyone, I'm going to let you go because we're up at the end of our Q&A time here. Please get in touch with us if you need more information about anything. Even if you just have a quick question, I'd be happy to answer. If you email admin@HallieCrawford.com, I will get that and I can respond to you. And contact us as well if you would like more information about coaching. I'm happy to chat with you for a few minutes. We do a complimentary consultation where I talk with you directly for about 15 to 20 minutes to find out what's going on with you. I'll give you some advice, okay, as part of that, and then let you know what I think we should do next in terms of coaching or something else. All right, everyone. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day and good luck with your career goals and designing your ideal career. Remember, go take a risk.